Hi, and welcome to my Sound&Vision PechaKucha. In this document, I'll be taking you through the brief itself, research conducted, poetry considered, and the rationale behind the concept and experimentation, all conducted whilst getting used to After Effects as my main software. The brief initially was to create a 120-second motion graphic in conjunction with National Poetry Day 2020, the theme being vision and strapline, See Like a Poet. Due to the COVID pandemic, this was reduced to a series of experimentation and a polished storyboard complete with research blog. I began by researching National Poetry Day amongst other poetry organisations and festivals. This opened up my understanding of what can be considered poetry and, as such, allowed me to expand on my original mind map and delve into other areas, not just concentrating on the written word. I further researched storyboards and how to lay out and translate from still to moving image, along with the required actions and notations. I also looked into motion design and found a great many showreels, such as this one by Yin-Chi Lin. He uses flowing images and smooth transitions in a style that is known as liquid. My first case study was the opening title sequence of the movie Juno by Smith & Lee Design. It was created by vast amounts of photography, hand illustration, photocopying, and painstaking picture placement to create this stop-motion animation in an old-school aesthetic. It was a direct influence for me over the coming motion graphic. My second case study was looking into fluidity in motion design. Perhaps a little over-optimistic in retrospect, but I wanted to be able to make a good flowing animation with smooth transitions between scenes. My original thoughts of animating were lessened, however I feel like I've still created a flowing motion graphic. My target market is the younger end of Generation Z, around high school age, to try and get them into poetry by combining meaningful poetry topics with relevant visuals. As influenced by the mood boards shown, I've taken typography and colour and combined with relatability and accessibility to allow them to access into a sometimes ill-perceived or boring topic by modernising it. As such, I opted for spoken word poetry, breaking from what is regularly taught, Shakespeare or Burns, and the shown pieces by Dylan Garrity, Sarah Kay and Gary Turk all pose questions and issues that are aimed at my target demo, but don't patronise or attempt to infantile them. That's my goal. I ended up choosing Sarah Kay's poem, If I Should Have a Daughter, because it sends a supportive message. The poem doesn't shy away that life is hard, but wants to let the listener know that somebody is looking out for them. I also requested permission to use her audio, as who better to read it, but as yet, unfortunately, no answer. This condensed mood board for the concept of my poem is simple yet honest. I was directly influenced by Smith & Lee's stop-motion design for Juno, as well as the physically published works by Sarah Kay, specifically the hands of the left publication and the blue and white markers of the right one. This has been a direct influence, as you will see. For the typography of my animation, I originally wanted to have type in every scene, but this distracted from the image in some scenes. I went for brand and grotesque 153-point regular, bold for emphasis, for all of the reasons I've included, and the fact that it's culturally relevant, being the typeface for Costa Coffee ads and the typeface for the hit TV show A Good Place. Photography would become a bit of an issue due to having to stay home and not venture far. As such, I had to look elsewhere for some photographic elements. Stock photography websites such as Pexels, Unsplash and a few Google searches held what I needed. I also collaborated with a fellow student by asking permission to see if her daughter would like to join in. For the elements I was able to capture myself, I experimented with sound, video, including slow motion video, as well as burst photography for the stop motion aspects I was interested in creating. Ultimately, the sounds captured weren't clear enough for me to use within the final pieces, but I'm glad I experimented in the first place to get an understanding of how they would work. Editing photography for the stop motion was a long process. I'd wanted all of the photography to be a blue overlay, hex code 06062C if you're interested, it's the same as the book cover earlier, and to give them a nice chunky border to stand out from the blue background, to highlight them as the issues in the poem are highlighted too. Next on the list was the client proposal document. I discussed everything to this point and also provided a detailed storyboard complete with proposed sound clips, animations, timings and styles. I feel I have managed to achieve the vast majority that I set out to do, with the only letdowns being overambition for decidedly complicated or expensive plugins. An initial experiment that I completed in college was to create and place typography and have the screen look like there was a camera pan, allowing the viewer to view and follow along with the animation. Having never used After Effects before, I'm still very happy with my first ever attempt at trying to make sense of it. This was directly inspired by the Fluid Transitions video. I also experimented a fair amount with stop motion, having again been influenced by Juno and Wallace and Gromit to name two. I used burst mode on my camera to create a series of photography showing movement, and after editing them in Photoshop, place them into After Effects to create my animation, as you will see. For typographic and liquid animation, that was helpful for experimentation. I followed a great many tutorials, learning helpful hints and tips which translated into the final, as you will see.
I can kill you with my brain.
I also experimented with null objects and using them as reference for moving objects around as shown, as well as trying out different layouts and compositions. I tried to emphasise at the right points and play around with areas I felt could be played with to give a decent sense of motion and fun, or stillness and solemnity. The following is the animation fully sped up so you can see it in its entirety. I have a research blog which dictates my concepts and decision making, and if there are any questions regarding the justification of certain aspects of my decision making, please do get in touch and I'll be happy to answer all of them. Thank you.